How's it going, folks? It's Lobo and welcome back to the channel. And as promised, here I am with my Joker discussion where I will be going over which actor in particular is playing the character for the Batman, how valid are the rumors, and what this means for the franchise at large, incorporated with my own thoughts and opinions on the matter. So with that being said, let's dive right into it. So the actor in question, this mysterious figure, is none other than recent Eternal star Druig, otherwise known as Barry Keoghan. Before we go any further, I just want to say, now that you know the actor's name, and if you're continuing to watch this, we're going to go into, I wouldn't say spoiler talk, but obviously if I'm saying, hey, here's where this rumor sort of originates from, then if you consider that a spoiler, I totally understand. If you want to click away, that's fine, but you already know the actor's name, so it's kind of like, I don't know what you want to do. You got yourself in a pickle. But if you want to know how the story originated, I'm going to tell you right now, but I'm just giving you a chance so that in case you have some doubt that he's the Joker, that you can just go in sort of semi not expecting it. So if you want validation right now, then stick around because I'm going to go over just how valid this rumor is. So I'm going to tell you the full story so you can see the picture at large. Several months ago was the first screening for the Batman presented by Warner Bros. And that was, again, just given to audiences to see their general feedback, how they reacted to certain scenes, and know how much footage is too much or what didn't work for the sake of the movie's plot and flow. Again, this is just something we always see with movies. Obviously, theatrical release is different than the sort of first draft, first cut presented by directors and studio. They do these press screenings and sort of private screenings so that, again, as I mentioned, they can get a sort of feedback and see how the audience thinks about it. And then they work around and see what's best for theatrical release. Obviously, something to note is when it comes to theatrical release, another thing is huge is runtime. The shorter it is, the more times they can play it in theaters, which means more money. So that's just, I'm just giving you a little fact about that. But this all started back, as I mentioned, several months ago with the first screening of the Batman. Now, as I said, I'm going to be going over the sort of rumors and speculation here. But for the people who watched it, they said Barry Keoghan was not present in the film at all during the first few screenings. And why this is significant is because Barry was originally cast as Officer Stanley Merkel, who in the comics is the partner of James Gordon. So it just doesn't make sense for them to cut out a character of that nature when he's pretty much condensed and in ties with the GCPD, doesn't really have that much impact on the franchise or how sort of villainous proceedings can go. It just makes you wonder why his character is not seen if it's so minuscule in a sense, and what's the secretive nature behind that, and why even get an actor of Barry's caliber to play such an apparent small role. It's just those sort of things make you wonder. But going on to the second set of screenings, which happened a few weeks back, the people there who saw it, as well as reliable, take it how you will, if you know these scoopers or not, these are leakers technically, and if you believe their track record or if you trust them, that's fine. If you don't, that's completely okay, but you have numerous people saying it, as well as sort of, take it how you will, the anonymous people who said they were there saying it, but you have a lot of people saying the same story, so take it how you will. We have Daniel RPK, Viewer Anon, and Big Screen Leaks all saying that Barry Keoghan is playing the Joker in the Batman. So I dabble sometimes with not necessarily leaks like plot leaks for when it comes to like movies and shows, like I'm not that nature, but I look on leakers posts and stuff when it comes to check out this date when new content or material is going to drop and stuff, and I have some inside news on when this is going to release. Like, I look for dates. I don't look for spoilers as like plot natured, but they're all saying that this casting is true, and all the people who, again, apparently were there were saying Barry was finally in one of the cuts of the Batman, and this time he's playing Joker rather than his original cast of Stanley Merkel. Something that would pretty much validate and solidify this is the fact that major comic book news sites and just other types of news sites in general, all these major publishers and stuff, are saying that Warner Bros. Has two cuts of the Batman, which we know, as I just said, is to be true. There was one several months ago, and there was one recent in a few weeks back. And they say there's one character in particular that makes an appearance in one, but doesn't make an appearance in the other. That would be the latter, the second draft screening, again, with Barry Keoghan as the Joker. And they're saying Warner Bros. Is deciding which one they want to use for audiences when it comes to theatrical release. So with that in mind, they're essentially debating, should we show off him as the Joker or should we save that? And obviously it's boiling down to what sort of, not Matt Reeves well, technically Matt Reeves, because again, I'm pretty sure he has like 100% creative control. He's been very public on his sort of my way or the highway when it comes to how he wants to make and present this film, so I'm sure he has a large input on how he wants to set up future installments and such. But I'm thinking that this very much follows the sort of outline for what Christopher Nolan did with the setup of the Joker at the end. Leaves a calling card, has a taste of theatrics like you, and he flips it and it's a Joker card. And then obviously in The Dark Knight, Heath Ledger was playing the Joker. I just got a little tongue-tied there. But again, it could follow that blueprint where it's in the sequel playing Joker, but I think they're going to try to stray from that path. So that might be one of the factors on why they're trying to sort of say, hey, let's just not reveal him. Or one of the reasons, which I'll get into later, well, actually, I'll just get into it now because I kind of want to continue the flow with this, is that I personally think that it's going to detract from the Riddler if you put the Joker, because the huge sense of this movie is a detective noir sort of mystery, and that has so much to do with the battle of wits between the Riddler and the Batman. Two geniuses, one sort of chaotic evil, if you even want to call it that. Again, in basic terms, protagonist, antagonist, these two opposing forces of such intellectual superiority, as the Riddler likes to coin it. So it's really a battle of wits, and it's a duel of the mind. So that is the sort of figure and heart of this film. That's the core of it, and I just feel like if you put Joker there, it's going to detract from that because your attention will be drawn elsewhere. So I think they might be considering that as well. And just saving him for down the road. I really think that's what's occurring here. I don't necessarily think it's like Warner Bros. Is like, hey, we changed our mind, we want to cast someone different as the Joker. I just think it is, as I mentioned, that they might be considering it's just too soon to do the Joker, which personally I think so as well. I'm not against a Joker for this Batman franchise because apparently, well, it's pretty much confirmed that it's going to be a trilogy, but then there are sort of the rumors that, hey, they might make it 4 films or even a saga with 5 films. And my thinking is just save him for the end. Just save him for the end because there's so many other wonderful characters of his rogues gallery that just, I think, need their proper sort of standings. Riddler's finally getting one, which I'm so excited for. And I think we just need a little breather from the Joker. Again, give these other villains a time to shine. I'll go more into that a bit later, but I do think it has something along those lines to do with. It's kind of like that overpopulation, but something ironic about that whole situation is that I don't think I can find the particular post, but years ago, like 2 years ago, or 2 or 3 years ago when Matt Reeves was like originally announced for playing the Batman, he posted a tweet of Adam West's Batman, a picture of the actors and their costumes and stuff. And if you remember something in particular about that whole thing, is that there were some significant characters, minus Robin. I'm not going to go into Robin theories. I haven't personally heard anything about Robin, but I'm just not going to talk about that character. But when you think of it in the show, the main sort of standout, obviously Adam West is Batman. And when you look at the villains, who do you see? Riddler, Penguin, Catwoman, and Joker. Who are the villains for the Batman? Well, more Selena Kyle anti-hero, because that's how she pretty much is in the comics. She's not really a villain. We all know that. But technically she's considered one. Anyway, Selena Kyle, Catwoman, Colin Farrell's Penguin, Paul Dano's Riddler, and then if Barry Keoghan is the Joker in this, then that's 4. It's like Matt Reeves was teasing it all along, like, hey, here's my literal blueprint for this film. So, again, you just have to take it as you will. Take it however you want. It could be a lie, it could be true. Personally, what do I think? If you're going to ask me, or if you even care, that's fine. I think it's true. I really do think it's true, just because, not because you have people confirming it, but the fact that Barry is a rising star and a very good actor, and it just feels weird that he would play such an insignificant role in a large franchise and then have said role cut out in the first screenings. I'm like, that just does not add up at all. And then, of course, you couple that with the fact that it was a secretive role, because those do exist where they cast people as one character so that nobody sort of jumps on the suspicion, and then they reveal them to be some character entirely, which was under wraps and they didn't want anyone to know, because that is the true thing when it comes to Hollywood films. And then if you want to add even more sort of spice or whatnot on top of that, I just got to check one thing real quick. Oh, beautiful, beautiful. We are still recording because I'm having technical difficulties lately. Anyway, Barry's own damn brother on Facebook said, "Congratulations to my brother for being cast as the Joker," like sort of unreal stuff. So you could think like that's a troll post, like sure, but why would he do that on Facebook? And then for one, like have other relatives of his direct family comment and say congratulations and sort of saying how proud they are of him. And then his brother proceeds to like and heart those comments. And it just, it's like, I don't know what kind of family troll that is or whatever, because I know I saw some people originally when that post occurred saying, no, oh, it's just Irish sense of humor and stuff. They're just, cracking a joke and stuff. I'm like, that's a very interesting joke to crack when there's sort of NDAs and stuff. And I'm like, oh, I don't know about that. But, and as I pointed out, before we go into sort of my opinion on him, like directly my opinion about him, I want to say if you watch my previous sort of Batman-related video where they released a new sort of Japanese TV spot / trailer, I noticed when I was rewatching it a smile behind Bruce Wayne in the background, and I'm gonna pull it up right here on my sort of I can't whistle. I'm sorry for doing that. I just want to take a look at this real quick. If you don't know what I'm talking about, there's the scene in particular where it's the Riddler has sort of pictures on the wall and he's stalking Bruce Wayne and stuff, but he's got all these pictures, and there's one in particular of Bruce Wayne that we've seen from set photos as well as sort of in the trailer and stuff, but it appears as though someone directly behind him is doing the iconic Joker smile. Their lips look very dark and red and such. And some people are even saying, oh, look at the facial features. That's so Barry. So I'm like, it could be, it could not be. I just think it does look like a Joker smile. And those sort of pigmentation in the lips really do make me think it's like that dark / bright red of the Joker. And I've seen some people say, no, it's just a lady smiling. She's so happy to see Bruce Wayne. I'm like, if that's the case, that is the most sinister, unintentional smile I've ever seen in my damn life. If that's some lady smiling out of excitement, bro, get me the hell out of there. But I don't know. It's just interesting because it would be weird that Joker is sort of outside again, I would say it's like I think it's a courtroom in real life, but they're using the structure and stuff to make its funeral scene. Obviously, they CGI'd some elements on top of it. But that scene in particular, I'm like, why would the Joker be there for one and sort of out in his makeup? It just doesn't make sense. So this is either photoshopped. Well, that wouldn't really make sense. It has to be either just one, it might be the lady where it's just sort of the angle and the filtering that makes it appear like it's something different. Or it could just simply be, as I mentioned, a Photoshop, and Matt Reeves is just trying to leave like a little Easter egg or subtlety for fans to like pick out and stuff. It could be one of the two of that, or everyone, and myself included, could just be overthinking it. But I think that I Jesus Christ, I can't even talk. I honestly think there's something more going on with that, because that is just too specific and too blatantly obvious, especially in a TV spot officially released by Warner Bros. I feel like based on how meticulous and detailed Matt Reeves is, he would have noticed that. So I'm guessing it was intentional. And now to finish things off, I'm just going to give you my opinion on how I feel about this and personally about the decision, because as I said, it's pretty much confirmed. Of course, this is all non-official, but based on so many factors, it's pretty much culminating into a point where you're pretty certain. So yeah, I'm just going to give you my straight opinion. I'm not going to try to like hide or lie or sort of just go with the crowd mentality and stuff, but I'm not really a fan of this. As I said, I'm not going to lie. When I heard about this weeks back, I paused and I looked at my phone and I went sort of ballistic on looking on all the different sort of scoopers and stuff, hashtag Joker, all over the place, all over Twitter, Reddit, Instagram, diving for all those scoops and stuff because I didn't want it to be true. And then so many people were saying it, and I was seeing so many sort of confirmations and all the things I mentioned, and then I read about the thing with his brother and went into his casting and stuff and seeing how he was nowhere to be seen. And that reminds me, just before we I say anything else, I know a lot of people are saying, oh no, you can see Barry in a set photo. That's a car valet. I will admit the haircut does look a lot like him. I won't lie, thought it was Barry, but there are other set photos where you can see that actor in particular, who's obviously just sort of a background actor because he has such a tiny role. He's only getting Bruce Wayne's car keys and some money, but there are angles where you see his face and it's not Barry, so that's disproven. There are no set photos of him at all. There's none. So as I was saying, I was just looking and sort of, it wasn't like in horror, but it was just such indecision where I was very turned off by the Batman at that point, which sounds crazy, I know, because I'm such a huge fan. I am wearing the goddamn hoodie right now as well, but it was just, I had to sit back and think about it, because it's not just I don't like the casting choice, it's because of sort of this Joker fatigue. I know the Joker is pretty much essential to the Batman's character and his story, which I'm not going to disagree with, but I just feel like it's so damn soon. As I mentioned, just focus on the Riddler for this particular film, or if they do it in a way that it doesn't necessarily detract from him, and Barry, well, the Joker in particular, isn't the direct villain for the sequel, but they sort of build on his character to leave it for a sort of finale. I'm like, I could get behind that. But just starting from now, not being able to see the future and see what it entails, it's a little bit scary, because I'm like, are you overbloating this? Are you doing too much here? So there was that, and there was the fact that, I know this is going to be very, very nitpicky, I'm sorry, but I've also actually seen a lot of people say this too. So it's not like I'm just coming out of the blue with this and not making any sense, or have this sort of very minor opinion, or just one that's like non-popular. But I personally just don't think he looks like the Joker at all. The Joker obviously has a very sort of sharp and very skin tight, obviously it's very unnatural and very unrealistic, but he has a very bony, lanky sort of physique, as well as like bone structure, if you even want to call it that. And I think that Barry just has a very unique look about him. Like, he has prominent features that don't necessarily line up with how the Joker has been portrayed in classical comics. And again, I wouldn't say it's like hypocritical and stuff, but I've mentioned this before in I don't even want to guess which video. I probably said this a long time ago. But when it comes to the sort of comic iterations and accuracy and stuff, you can toss a stone anywhere and it's going to land on something comic accurate, because there are countless variations and interpretations. So obviously there's going to be one with Joker with a sort of different look, and same can be said for any sort of character when it comes to the Batman, or just any comic franchise in general. But of course you have the main ones that are sort of interpreted again and again and again, and have become sort of the staple of appearance and identity on how we perceive these characters. So I think if we're doing a classical Joker, then he should sort of follow in line with the features of the character. And why this is important to me is because Matt Reeves has been phenomenal with his castings for this movie. The only sort of standout / exception that you could say would have to be Jeffrey Wright, because there was a select group of a few individuals, well, it's more than a few, but it's a minority compared to the fan base at large, and there still is, and that's because James Gordon has been portrayed as a white man in the comics. And I'm not really going to go into heavy talk about that, but I will mention that I already talked about this in a previous video, but I'm going to re-include a link that I mentioned in that video where Jeffrey Wright himself spoke about this topic and how sort of modern times are different. And again, this is sort of, you're using comic and sort of source material, from around 80 years ago, 2 different times. So he does a way of articulating it and pretty much elegantly defending himself, not necessarily against hate, but just sort of criticism and stuff. But he presents it in a way that's both logical and pretty realistic. So bravo to him. And I always love to hear Jeffrey Wright talk, because I just think he's very intelligent and he's very, very well spoken. So it's always a delight to hear him. But if you're interested in that, I'll include that link down below. But I recommend you check it out, because he's just he has a way with words. But originally for me, when I saw his casting, I was like, I got behind it instantly. And that's because what's funny enough is that years ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, I think, or maybe 3 or 4, two to 5. Let's just do that sort of ballpark. I saw a picture of him. I think it was like either one from Westworld or stuff, but it was just him, and he had like a vest and then like a white shirt underneath with a tie, and he had glasses and a beard and stuff. I'm like, I saw a picture of him. I'm like, man, that guy just gives off such heavy James Gordon vibes. And then lo and behold, he was cast as him for the Batman. I'm like, holy shit, that makes so much sense. And then the first time I ever heard his voice, I was like, oh my god, bro, this guy's got a magic voice. It's perfect. And he plays the Watcher and What If. Like, he has just such a great voice, such a phenomenal actor, and his looks just scream James Gordon. So I personally think it's a perfect cast for him. And I just want to quickly wrap this little segment up because we're sort of straying, but I just wanted to mention again on the nature of comic accuracy and such. As I said, Matt Reeves has been phenomenal when it comes to casting. The only sort of controversial one was Jeffrey Wright, which I think is just utter nonsense. He's perfect for the role because, again, when you look at it in all these characters for the castings, they're just perfect. Personally, for me, Robert Pattinson just plainly emits Bruce Wayne looks. I mean, he's the first actor in almost 30 years to have the correct eye color of blue eyes. That's just like, again, small little comic nitpick, but he has the blue eyes that Batman has always been portrayed as in the comics. And he's got like a top 5 jawline in the entire world. Like, that shit can cut through vibranium. It's perfect for the mask. I said this before, if you ever wonder why his mask is so exposed when it comes to that, because usually it's cut off and stuff, and it's so tight that it makes the actor's sort of lips like puckered and shit and perked. It's because of his damn jawline. They're like, how could we not show that bitch off? That's why. It's just, it's beautiful. And again, couple that with his acting abilities, just a phenomenal actor, very interesting actor, that it makes such a great interpretation of Bruce Wayne. And specifically, I think it really reminds you of sort of the Night Cries interpretation. It's almost like a time traveler went back and drew a picture of him and said, this shit's gonna happen sometime down the road. It's just, it's crazy. Then you move on to Zoe Kravitz. I just think she looks identical to Year One Selena Kyle. It's perfect. And it's kind of funny that Year One is sort of the main inspiration for this film, which I think is awesome because that is my favorite sort of animated Batman movie of all time. I absolutely love Batman Year One, so I'm so excited on that nature. Andy Serkis as Alfred. Again, it's a more rugged, tough Alfred with that militaristic background. It just screams Earth One to me personally. Colin Farrell's Penguin looks a lot like Alex Ross's depictions of the character, where it gives off that heavy vibe of a crime lord / mafia boss, and it really works well with the sort of layer of corruption and depth of it that they're going for in the movie when it comes in terms of Gotham. John Turturro has the slash and the stash of Batman The Long Halloween. Just perfect. Enough said there. Oh, it's beautiful to see. And then last but certainly not least, we have Paul Dano's Riddler. There hasn't really been a specific look for the Riddler in the comics when it comes to him without his sort of gear, his mask, his hat, his costume, whatever you want to say. But generally speaking, it is always sort of brown hair with blue eyes, and obviously Paul Dano fits within the criteria of that. But what's funny is the first time I did see him, same thing with like Jeffrey Wright, is when I saw him, I was like, holy shit, because when I saw the casting of who's playing the Riddler, I'm like, why does it look like if the Riddler were a real person, this is what he would look like? I was like, damn, that is, you can't get any better than that when it comes to casting. And all the people that I've sort of seen in comments throughout various social media platforms and stuff when it comes to him and the Riddler and stuff say he is a superb actor and he's perfect for playing a sort of psychotic villain and criminal mastermind. So I'm like, oh dude, this just has perfection written all around it. So with that being said, there's sort of all these different comic iterations, but there's so much visual accuracy that when I see Barry Keoghan, I'm just like, we had such a sort of trend of looks being almost identical to different comic iterations that I'm like, oh, did we miss it here with Barry? But again, as I said, there are just so many comics. So maybe there's one where the Joker really does look like Barry Keoghan and stuff, but for right now, I can't visually see it because, again, one of the main things you always want to look at first is their acting capabilities. I've seen clips of him from Killing of the Sacred Deer and Green Knight. I'm like, yeah, he can definitely act, but to me personally, he does still look a bit young and sound a bit young too, but it's kind of ironic because he's older than when Heath Ledger originally played the character. I just find that kind of funny. I'm like, wow, he's older than him, but he just, like, sound-wise and looks just fits a more younger person. I just found that interesting. But sort of the thing that sort of goes against that in sort of a positive way is that look at Colin Farrell. He was cast as the Penguin? What? Then you see the makeup they did on him and you're just like, holy shit, that's Oscar worthy and stuff. Well, this is the one thing I can't confirm, but I've heard so many people say this, is that the particular artist that did his sort of Colin Farrell's Penguin makeup / prosthetics, they say they follow him on Instagram, and the only other Batman cast person that they follow is Barry Keoghan. So everyone is saying, why would they follow him? Just for no reason in particular, because obviously makeup has to be done for the Joker, but they're saying, what if there's some prosthetics to really transform him into the Joker? I don't know, maybe they gave him like a super sharp nose, or they elongated his chin to make like that very sharp jawline, kind of like Mark Hamill's Joker in the Batman games and stuff. Like, there could be so much done prosthetic work. Personally, I think that would be excessive. I'm just giving you examples because what I heard, again, this is spoiler and stuff, this is like visual, I wouldn't call them leaks because I don't know if they're true. These are like another thing I wouldn't say are true or not, but I have the apparent description of what he looks like. If you want to know that, that's great, but if you don't want to know that, just click away. But here we go. What I heard and have been seeing is they say he has longer hair. I know some people are like, damn it, cut the trend of the long hair Joker, but personally for me, I like it because what I wanted for this Joker originally, because I knew at some point they were going to do Joker, but I always wanted an older actor and a very, as I mentioned, lanky. I wanted him to be very skinny like Joaquin Phoenix because it adds to that sort of sinister and I wouldn't say edgy, but it really gives you that unsettling vibe when they're very bony and such. So I wanted that coupled with an older actor for wrinkles and stuff to add to that more sort of mature / sinister side visually. And with Barry, the sort of description that people are saying, again, as I mentioned, the longer hair, which I'm like, okay, that's pretty good. They said he has scarring, and I don't know if that means like Heath Ledger with the mouth scars, which I wouldn't mind that returning. You could say that's a copycat. Jesus Christ, that was like a Italian meets Boston accent. Well, I'm pretty much both because I live near Boston and I'm part Italian, but that just doesn't matter. Sure, it could be a copycat with the scars. I would actually like to see the return of that because I thought that was cool because it just adds to the smile. But I can see them not doing it because it seems like a direct copycat because I don't really recall any specific interpretations of Joker in the comics that had the scarring like that because it's just been him with an unusually large mouth that creates a smile, not necessarily he cut it to extend it. But it could also be just like a lot of facial scars. Colin Farrell's Penguin has quite a few scars on his face. I mean, technically Carmine Falcone does as well, but that's specifically from Selena Kyle. It's not necessarily from like past occurrences or sort of deformities or whatnot. But it could just, as I mentioned, be scars all over the place, which personally I think would be cool. What I kind of want from him, what I'm hoping, if he is the Joker, sort of this is what I want prosthetics and makeup wise. I want him like to have the longer hair. I'm not talking about like super long, but longer hair because his haircut is so modern because he has like kind of like mine, but it's like on the sides it's way shorter and then he's like sort of the top hair. I'm like, I can't picture a Joker in that. That's like a sort of young 20s teen type of haircut, but he's like a movie star, so it still works for him. And as I said, he sounds and looks younger than he is and stuff. So I'm like, the Joker cannot have that haircut. So if the long hair thing is true, I'm like, that's good. I would not mind if he had some scars like that. I wouldn't mind. I'd actually welcome it. But if they're not going to do it because it pretty much copies Heath Ledger, that's fine. I'm okay with that. But it's so long as he has like pretty prominent. Even if it's not tattoo, God no, I'm not doing Jared Leto again. I'm sorry if you like Jared Leto. I hated his look, and I saw the originally what it's supposed to look like in the Iyer cut. I'm like, somehow you made a shitty design get even worse. I'm sorry if I like destroyed your heart by saying that, but I do not like Jared Leto's look at all. But I just want, again, really prominent like red makeup for the smile and stuff. I don't know, with Heath Ledger, he had like the black around the eyes, but it covered his eyebrows. I wouldn't mind if they did like eyeliner, but to the point where it's not like, hey, I'm putting on eyeliner and mascara to look all pretty and stuff. I would rather it be sort of like almost blood clots, because if you know that blood clots and stuff really make like the bruising. I think it would be cool if it was like bruising and you could see like even veins sort of very stressed and prominent and darkened from sort of skin reaction to, because I'm assuming they did acid chemicals from Ace Chemicals, because they said he was very pale, so I would imagine that his entire skin is white. It's not just like makeup he put on. His whole sort of skin is white. Again, take it with a grain of salt. So I would like some black around the eyes, and I would like him to wear contacts. He has light blue eyes. I'm like, that's good, because I loved Heath Ledger's my favorite Joker and stuff, but it would have been cool to see sort of the comic accurate eyes, and because the sort of Joker has like an unnatural light sort of glowy green eye color that adds to those sinister vibes where you're like, oh my god, this is sort of inhuman. So I'd like if they gave Barry Keoghan the sort of very light and dilated green eyes and stuff to add to that effect. But he has light blue eyes. I'm like, that could work too. But if it had the sort of very bright but light colored green eyes, there's a lot they can do. Again, it's just, for me, it's not necessarily that he is a bad actor. From what I've seen, he's a very good actor. But again, it just has to fall in line with visuals and stuff. So that's more a nitpick rather than like a disgustment with the casting choice. Because obviously, depending on how he looks, I can get behind it or not. And it's not like I don't want to love it. I hope I do. So I hope at one point when I do my sort of Batman sort of spoiler talk / review, then I'm going to be like, assuming they keep him, because remember, they're deciding whether or not to cut him from the movie. Assuming they keep him, I want to be like, oh my god, I was so wrong. I loved him. He's perfect casting. This is going to be amazing. Oh, it's beautiful. I want that. I truly want that to happen. But it's just one of those things where personally for me and everyone, just going to have to wait and see. So just again, wrapping up here, as I mentioned, there's so many things that can occur with this. One other small thing I have sort of heard from people and stuff that could be really good is they say he employs a very similar acting style to Robert Pattinson. So essentially what that means is they sort of have the same, I wouldn't say mannerisms, but they act in a very unique and distinct way, but they fall in line where they would have good chemistry and stuff. And obviously Matt Reeves, as I said, being so smart when it comes to filmmaking, specifically handpicks people, and obviously he's watching for chemistry between actors. That's how Zoe Kravitz landed the role of Catwoman. She needed that chemistry with Robert Pattinson that none of the other actresses who auditioned had. So he probably saw something between Barry and Robert, assuming they had a little brief behind the scenes sort of interaction to see how they would do with each other. But again, on the nature of that, if he does have a similar acting approach to Robert Pattinson, that's perfect, because obviously when you look at the Batman and Joker in hindsight, there's these sort of dualistic figures. The duality of it, I wouldn't necessarily call it yin-yang, but there are these two opposing forces. The unstoppable force meeting the immovable object. There are two sides of the same coin. So you really need that sort of, you feel a similarity, yet their intentions and their paths diverge, but you can still see sort of this connection between the two. So obviously if they have very good chemistry and a very good, very same acting approach, then it would work incredible. So again, we'll just have to wait and see. To those who watched this point, I appreciate it. It was kind of unnecessary, but I just like to ramble a bit and talk about things that are related to shit I like. And I also just wanted to get my thorough opinion out about this casting and just how I feel about it and stuff. So if you would like to let me know what you personally think about Barry, what do you think about the Joker, whether or not he's going to appear, is Warner Bros. Going to cut him, is he going to get recast, which I don't think it's going to happen, and sort of what that means down the road. Like, when is the Joker going to appear? How is he going to appear? What's his origin? Is it going to be Ace Chemicals? All that good stuff. If you have any theories, I would love to see them. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'm going to try to get this up on a Tuesday, so obviously whenever you see it, it doesn't really matter. But for me, I'm trying to do future talk because I have to do this, get caught up on Hawkeye before I watch Spider-Man No Way Home. I'm staying off social media because right now, at the time of recording this, they did the first press screening, and it was the red carpet premiere. So I'm staying away from social media. I don't want any spoilers, but I have to get this out. My Spider-Man sort of pre-watch discussion on what I think is going to happen, what I want to see and stuff, that will be up on Wednesday, hopefully. I really do hope. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this one. And until then, I will catch you folks in the next video.